Presenting Channeling Erik's Hour of Enlightenment.
Hi one, hi all. This is Elisa Medhus. Erik Medhus is my beautiful son, my twin flame, my immortal beloved, who I miss so much and I love so much. And we are so honored today to have both Denise Ramon at deniseramon.com and Michelle Gray at thehealing-art.com. And so today, guys, we're going to talk about acceptance. There's great value in accepting yourself, right? It's so hard sometimes. So let's see, where you are right now, accepting yourself. Okay, I'm reading this, so I'm not doing a very good job. Accepting yourself where you are right now, right? Right now. And Erik's going to help us learn how to do that. And once we accept ourselves for who we are and where we are in our spiritual evolution, then, we can open up more doors, on our journey. And I'm telling you, a lot of us have been beaten down by peers, family members, siblings especially sometimes, the media, just society as a whole, into thinking we are not acceptable, we are not lovable, etc. But people, each and every one of us, you too, are absolutely perfect and divine. How can we be unacceptable when we are whole and part of God? I mean, that's impossible, okay? It's impossible. So we all need to get our heads out of our asses and learn to see ourselves as the perfect beings we are. But anyway, what do I know? I'd rather hear Erik's take on it. Thank you very much. So anyway, thank you, ladies, for joining us. Oh, by the way, people, Denise and Michelle and I were just talking about how it would be so cool to have a monthly Zoom cocktail hour. And for people who don't drink, it would be tea. But, just to have an open place to talk and share ideas and ask questions with a little glass of red wine in our hands or whatever, in our hands. So anyway, that's something we're going to work on. So Erik, hi, baby. I love you.
He says, hi, Mama. He says, I love you. And he says, that happy hour sounds good. He can't wait to join. He's telling me
I bet.
He has I feel like it's a cocktail in his hand, not a red wine. But he said yes. And he says hello. He always comes to me in colors. I don't know why. And I don't know if it's because that's how I work too. But he's right now showing me he's in the color yellow, like a sunshine yellow.
Happiness.
Yeah. So
okay. So how, Erik, can we accept ourselves when we've been told that we are unacceptable for so many years, and we have developed such self-loathing that creates disease, traps emotions in our energy, etc. What can we do, Erik?
Well, he says it's not just for years; it's been eons because it's been being passed down, and and I was asking him, I was like, well, Erik, how do you do that? Because I know what I do, and I was asking him. He says, and I said, what about the people who, can't pay rent, or they got a ticket or something, how they got to go to court or things like that? How can you, be there? He says, there's always something that you can find within yourself that's okay, like you're not hungry, you just had a bath, or, like just accepting, like being okay with where you are right now, like, being that you just had a bath, and being appreciative of that, he says. And he goes, what happens though is we've had our bath, we had a roof over our head, we have food in our belly, but we're thinking in the future, we're thinking about in the past of what we didn't do and what we need to do, what we ought to do, because if we get this or do that, then we'll be okay. And he says, and where you are right now is what you thought about years or even days back, that you thought if you had all that, you'd be okay, but you're still not okay. And he said, so it's about just, he goes, it's about just being with yourself right now. And then he says, and ask yourself, why am I feeling like I'm not okay? And then is it because I flunked a test, or I got fired, or what is it? So how does that make you not okay? And he says, just really break it down, because we've been so conditioned. We're only okay if we have all of this status quo stuff. But then when we get there, we're not okay with it. So he's saying it's about like asking yourself, am I okay with, taking a bath or not taking a bath? Well, if you're not okay with not taking a bath, then go take a bath. And he says, break it down to the little things. And he says, and yes, there are things you have to plan for in the future, and there are things in the past that probably need some cleaning up maybe. But he says that you clean that up and you obtain the future by being okay in the now, and just looking at yourself right now. And, and when he was talking to me about this, I remember, I think it was 2.5 months ago, I just looked in the mirror and I was like, oh, I got to get my hair colored again. It's starting to show. And then I just had this feeling like, embrace yourself. Embrace yourself at the age you are. And so I haven't colored my hair in the 2 last haircuts. And I'm like, I just feel so much better. I don't feel like I have to go do this at a certain time.
Nice. Save some money too, man.
Yes, you do.
When we can't accept ourselves because of things mistakes, whatever, I put air quotes, that we've made, the failures that we've had, all you have to do is say, okay, what should I, and what can I learn from that? These are gifts. These mistakes are gifts. And once you find out what the lesson is and you learn it, then, of course, you can say, thank you for this mistake. Because I turn it into a way to make myself more evolved, stronger, etc. So that's how you release yourself from making mistakes, create this unacceptable you.
Yes, and Erik says sometimes those mistakes are so vital that you made those because that's what's making things even better for you now. And that is the part of you. He says in some of those mistakes, like some of us may have ran and crashed into somebody while we were drunk or something, and he's using these kind of mistakes because you're like, how can that be okay? But it's like that is what woke you up. And in that is where you found that you needed additional help, and that is where you were able to start healing, or the doctor said, you got tongue cancer from chewing tobacco or something, and this is what you needed to be able to move forward. And he says it just gets into a deeper part of you, and he says, and then there's those parts that you feel like it's just like so much regret. He says those are the parts of you that you haven't even accepted or even loved. He goes, and that's the part where you have to start giving that part of you love. And how I do it for me is I just envision whatever that emotion is, and I put it in one palm, and I just envision whatever color brings me comfort at that time, and that I'm putting that energy and that love into it. And Spirit and Erik both told me it's like if you don't know what that feeling is, it's like that feeling you get when you see baby animals, like a baby kitten or a baby puppy, or he says, get into that feeling of it. He says, and send that part of you love. Oh. Instead of sitting there for 3-4 hours a day beating yourself, why don't you spend 30 minutes giving yourself love?
All right, Michelle Gray, have you ever been at a point where you didn't accept yourself, but then finally traveled some sort of path to acceptance?
Oh, absolutely. I think that has been the story of my life, because for most of my life I wasn't able to accept myself, and I didn't really even know why. And I think the biggest example, and I use this all the time, but this is really the biggest turning point for me, was I had a challenge accepting myself physically, accepting the way I felt. I was too sensitive, too emotional. I couldn't accept some of the circumstances I had gotten myself in, accepting circumstances that created hardship for my children. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, I had everything away, meaning everything physically, all the material stuff, the everything that I put in my hair and in makeup. I had my eyelashes taken away, my hair. I gained all kinds of weight, and I really went to the opposite end of the spectrum so that I physically, I stripped myself down so I had no choice but to go inside. I couldn't distract myself with anything else, and was faced with an illness that I wasn't sure that I would make it through or not. Yeah. And so that was, it was really, Erik always says it was my 2x4 moment where I was hit over the head with a 2x4 to say, like, this is it. This is your crossroads of surrender. And Erik says it doesn't have to be like that for all of us. It doesn't mean we all have to, walk into a situation like that. For me, that's what I needed. That was my, my turning point. But the biggest thing, what Erik is saying is that the other thing, too, is forgiveness. And that's something that was really big for me. Not so much forgiveness of everybody else, it's forgiveness of myself. Why? For the expectations I held. Holding myself to a certain standard of I need to be this person, or who did I let down? And, not being able to accept who I was, and really forgiving myself, allowing myself to be who I am, allowing myself to be where I'm at. And I mean, there's all kinds of, I could take an entire show up talking about all of that. But Erik says, don't forget about adding forgiveness, because when we add forgiveness in to ourselves, if we're holding ourselves accountable for something that has happened in the past, and he says, something that's happened that we can't change, we can change how we relate to it. We can look for meaning in it. We can look for what we've learned in it, finding purpose in that challenge. But when we forgive ourselves, what that also does is that helps us open up to more compassion for ourselves, but also helps us open up to more compassion for other people too. Exactly. And to be able to see that, and that was a really big thing for me, is it really humbled me to go through the experience that I did, and really helped me have a lot more compassion for other people, and for, the hardships and the things that I didn't understand, and for the things that I did. So there's a lot of value in this process for us.
Yeah, and forgiveness, basically, if you can take what you could perceive as flaws or mistakes, etc., and turn them into something that helps you grow and helps, by extension, helps other people, then, of course, you're forgivable. My goodness. Mm-hmm. So this is a path that we travel of forgiveness and acceptance that we're talking about today. So, and I just can't stop reminding people how you are so lovable and so forgivable and so it's worthy of self-acceptance, because you are perfect. Mm-hmm. I mean, you really are perfect. Mm-hmm. So Michelle, now that you're on the other side of that, how do you see things? And Denise, you too. I'd like to ask you.
Very, very different, because now I approach my life with I'll say this. Okay, when I first started meditating, after I'd had this, the first thing that I saw, the first word I saw in meditation was the word surrender. And I always use this as an example, because at the moment that I saw that, I didn't understand what spirit meant. I had no idea. I was like, surrender what? I don't get it. What am I supposed to surrender? And that has meant so much to me, because now I walk hand in hand with a sense of surrender to the best of my ability, because I try very hard to view life from that higher perspective of really being able to see what's the purpose in this. why is this happening? Allowing things to take place so that not only I can flow, but also understand that if something changes, if something happens, if something takes place that's unexpected, to understand that, I may not understand what the purpose is right in that moment, but I will, or I trust that it's going to lead me to another place of understanding, and it's going to lead me to something greater, and it always does. It always does. So I don't walk with that same sense of worry that I used to.
Well, that's awesome. What peace that must bring to your heart. Denise, what about you? Knowing what you're on the other side of the travel to acceptance and self-forgiveness.
Well, it's like it keeps getting deeper, because I get a deeper sense of acceptance, a deeper sense of forgiveness, and it's definitely, where I can breathe and walk with my head held high, and I try not to take things as serious, because I too have been through things,
Yes.
I remember when I came out of the closet, so to speak, and I had a whole bunch of friends, but the minute I came out, all of those friends left, all of them.
Gosh.
And so I had to
be friends then, obviously.
Correct. And I had to learn how to go within and really get okay with me and explore that aspect of me.
So your friends had the cancer that Michelle had.
Oh, Michelle, my friend?
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
No, your friends were equivalent to the cancer that Michelle experienced, bringing you go within.
But in a sense, though, they really were teachers for me, because had they not have done that, I wouldn't have done that work of really doing self-exploring.
Oh, yeah.
So, exactly. And that's the same with the cancer.
Yeah.
Same thing. I'm grateful for it. Mm-hmm.
So when these things happen, and, there's times when people irk me and stuff, and I allow myself to play with that stuff for a few days or whatever. But then I have to really ask myself, what is it about them that they're bringing up in me? What is it that they're mirroring? And I really try to look at it, because I know that that's what they're doing, or otherwise they wouldn't be getting on my nerves as much. And so it's only for my benefit, for me to grow. So I've had people ask me, would you change anything about your life? And it's like, no, I really wouldn't. Maybe I would have not have said some words to some people, but all the other experiences, no, I wouldn't have changed any of them. And from the time when I was sexually molested as a young kid growing up, I wouldn't change any of that, because it's just, Erik's telling me, he goes, because it's about acceptance. And he says it's because it helps you to dig in and find out who you really are, because we're more than just this body, and we're just, I don't know, through my journey, I have found myself to be less critical and less judgmental. When you see things and you're like, oh my God, how come they don't do this? Whatever it is,
Because that's awesome. That's so valuable, because that doesn't sit well with the soul, to feel such negativity toward others. And, I've been there and done that and evolved, thankfully, at least in part, to the point where I don't judge anybody anymore. I mean, am I perfect? No, but holding judgment against somebody else just feels so crappy. It just does. It doesn't do anybody any good, ever, ever, ever. It's not our job.
Erik told me the other day, because I was doing something, we were talking, and he says, and he was showing me the reason why we feel so good when we do stuff for other people, because we're actually doing that for ourselves.
Yeah.
And he said, so that's why you ought to be careful what you give to others, because you're also giving that to yourself.
Right. And you don't want to give to a person in a way that enables them or robs them of a lesson.
Correct.
Just to stoke your own ego.
Correct.
Ayn Rand, I think it's pronounced Benevolent Selfishness, is a super good book. All right, now as mediums, how did that, what effect did that have on your ability to accept yourselves, both of you, starting with Michelle, I guess?
What was it that, like, what was it, at what point?
Medium. Yeah, you being a medium, did that make it difficult for you to accept yourself?
There were levels of it. It happened in different stages because I definitely had to step outside of my family. I had to just mull with it by myself for a long time. And I was very careful on who I shared it with because for a very long time it was very sacred to me. Yeah. It was something that it hurt me immensely when it would get torn up by other people. And so when I would say something, because my experiences would be so deep and so meaningful, and some of them would just bring me to my knees in tears and just of gratitude. And so expressing that to somebody else and trying to share that with somebody that, isn't necessarily on that level or believes or understood, it could easily get tossed around as a joke. And so that was very hard for me at some points because, especially when I first met Erik, and I had to kind of keep that to myself. And my parents, they knew because they knew what I was like, and they grew up with it. And so it was really not a big surprise to them, but I was very protective of Erik. I was very, because when I knew what I knew with Erik, and I knew what was real and what was happening and everything, I was very protective because I didn't want anything to taint my experience or to hurt that. And so that took a while for that to kind of work itself out. And it meant that I had to make some changes. There were some relationships that didn't go forward because, and they had to for various reasons. And Erik's just saying right now, he's like, I'm a big boy. I can take care of myself.
I know.
I'm saying I was protective of him. But it's just, it was, and now it's very different now because I do accept who I am. And I really feel I don't have the same concern that I grew up with about worrying about what people think about me. I'm human, so every now and again something gets said about me, or I'm human. Of course, I'm going to feel that, and I might kind of lick my wounds a little bit over it, but I get over it fairly quickly.
That's
and
awesome.
To me, what I experience now, what I experience with spirit, that the meaning of what happens and what it gives to myself and to other people means way more than what I care about what other people think.
That's awesome. What about you, Denise? Being a medium, how did that rock you a little bit in your road to self-acceptance and so forth?
Well, it scared me because I was fortunate in the beginning, but at that time I didn't see it as fortunate because when I had that experience at my brother's funeral, I was like, oh my God, my whole world changed, because then I knew in that moment there really is a God. And prior to that moment.
Well, what happened at your, again, because I don't think everybody knows.
Well, at my brother's funeral, it was, obviously closed casket, and I was doing the boo-hoos, and all of a sudden this warmth, like, injected in my body, my soul, with warmth, and this love that cradled me and said, the time is right, your brother is with me, and I'm here for you. And I remember I said to myself, oh my God, there really is a God, because I didn't grow up in a religious home. Right. And I knew my brother was supposed to die August 9th, regardless of how he transitioned. Wow. And I knew that God was there for me, and I didn't tell anybody about it for a year because I didn't want anybody to say that's not true when I knew it was. No. So I would just go sit every morning because I didn't know what else to do, because this is 1981, And I would just connect to that energy and just say, please show me what I'm to do today. And little by little, the universe would bring things, people, books, whatever in my path to go. Did I tell people about it? No, but I started out where I talked to the angels because that was gentle, or I worked with the angels until I did stuff like that, and I would call it God, and so that was more acceptable. But as far as letting people know what I could do, I was very hush-hush about it because I didn't want people to think I was crazy. Just the people around me locally knew what I did, but I would never come out and tell anybody. And if people asked me, I would say no. And one day I said, what are you so afraid of? Why do you think they're going to think you're crazy? And it was like, it's because I think I'm crazy. That's why, not that they think. And that's when I could feel in that moment, this had nothing to do with this lifetime. It was past life stuff coming up.
Oh, yeah.
So when I finally got able to be okay with it and accepting it, was like coming out again. It was very painful, as a matter of fact. Oh, yeah. And then I had to go do the website thing, and I just was fighting that. But I learned, and it's really what I want people to do for me is I allow people to be where they are in their belief system. If they think it's the devil, then it's the devil. If they don't believe in it, they don't believe in it. I allow them to be where they are with that, and I don't ever try and convince anybody that I'm right or this what I'm doing is the truth. Mm-hmm. If you don't believe, then you don't believe, and that's okay because it's not true for you. But people do know what I do, obviously, because of being on Channeling Erik, and sometimes messages come out, and I will have to give them because I get this anxiousness in me. Mm-hmm. But I've learned that the only reason why it's coming out is because that person is in a place to hear the message, however it is. Mm-hmm. But it's Erik says it makes you dig in deep to really know who you are, to become okay with you, because this isn't about getting acceptance from the outer world, because like Michelle says, people say some mean things, even on Facebook. We may not comment on it, but people do. And somebody did say something. It wasn't butt ugly, but it was kind of like, but I thought it was funny, so I laughed. But and I don't read the comments because people are butt ugly, and it's like, and they have a right to be where they are, and I have a right to not read them, and so I don't, and
I don't either. So so I got 3 other questions, and these are pretty much for Erik. Erik, what should it feel like to fully accept yourself and forgive yourself? What would a soul feel like? What would our listeners feel like?
Erik says total lightness. Lightness. We wouldn't be stuffing our bodies or anything with outer stuff because we don't need to try and bury anything. He said the total lightness. He said total lightness.
And no feeling like you're on the offense or defense, rather.
Right. He says.
What about Michelle? What is Erik telling you in this regard?
He's saying that resistance is at the other end of acceptance. And he says so the non-acceptance or resistance is like a heavier, more dense vibration, so it takes up more space. Basically explaining another way of what he just said to Denise, but he said when we resist, we're creating more chaos in our mind. We are also collecting validation from the outside world of outside of us, which jams up our chakras, our auric field. And then when we can clear that, then that is lightness, that's clarity, that's alignment. And there's always going to be some resistance. Erik said we wouldn't be human if we didn't have some resistance in there. But, there's a lot that, by being able to feel that more compassion, gratitude, it helps us feel more of that positive feelings, more positivity. And he says, and that's what raises our vibration. And it's that brings in more abundance and more opportunities.
Okay, yes. So the whole thing is, if you accept yourself where you are today, it'll open up doors for you tomorrow and beyond. So what do you say about that, Erik? That was my second question.
Erik says yes, because then you're not resisting. And he says, because when you're doing that, he shows me, because when you're resisting, what you're resisting is pushing against you.
Yeah, persist. What you resist, persist.
Yeah, and he said, so when you stop doing that, he says, what you do is you allow the universe to open up the doors a little bit more for you, or you allow the doors to open up so the universe can start bringing that to you, whatever it is. And he says, and even giving yourself a break for 30 minutes a day can make a big difference, is what he's showing me, because it's like you're you're not constantly trying to shut the doors when you got this big bull trying to push against it. That's what he's showing me, like a bull pushing up against the door, and you're trying to hold it shut.
Okay, so Erik, do you have any practical advice for listeners before, and then we'll take callers unless you have anything else, obviously, to say. So, any practical advice for those seeking self-acceptance and self-forgiveness?
Well, he says, the first thing you want to do is, he says, you want to be able to look at yourself. So he says, make a list, write down, he says, put it right out in front of you on a piece of paper. Write down the things that you feel that you're having a hard time accepting. Get real honest with it. He says, look at your life, your situation, and talk it out with yourself before you can go, because sometimes it could lead to talking it out with somebody else or making changes or taking an action. But he said the very first thing to do is to actually address what it is, understand what it is. Because he says a lot of times acceptance can be something that, a lot of people are walking around and not really even understanding what they're resisting. And just go by the feeling. Yeah. So he says, sit down. And like Denise said, he's like, sit down and take 30 minutes. Take 5 minutes a day and sit with your feelings. And just say, why do I feel that? What am I avoiding? Because he says if you start to journal or you start to write things down, you can start to unload it out of your field. You start to get it out of your mind. Then you can put it on a piece of paper. And he says, and then you can look at it like a puzzle, move it around, put it in categories. He says we like to do things like that as human beings. And it helps unload it from us so we're not carrying it around all the time.
Exactly. It's like when I get too many videos on my computer, I have to put it, upload it to a hard drive. Actually, 2 hard drives. So I think sometimes people have trouble because the self-acceptance difficulty could come from other lives. And I have seen, frankly, and Erik, you can tell me if this is true or not, a huge difference since on February 22nd, the Elohim in the Atlantic Scalar Energy Repair, Protection, and Enhancement Service started blocking the adverse effects from events and experiences from other lives to the present life, cutting it off. So it seems to make a big difference, and I'm wondering if it also makes a difference in those who still struggle to accept themselves, by reflecting on the stuff of the current life, but still something's missing that might be from another life. Your thoughts?
Erik is saying yes, it can help, but Erik, when you say that, Erik is also saying we spend a lot of time looking at what other people are doing or not doing for us or against us. And he says we need to take that energy and spend it towards ourselves, really give us that devotion of time. And when he's saying that, he's also talking about your work, start looking at putting some of that into your plan, about putting some of that, some of the work you do to help with that as well. He's showing me.
Okay. But also for self-acceptance, like Michelle said, we need to reflect on, on the stuff that is uncomfortable.
Yes.
But what about also journaling and talking about the things that we love about ourselves, that we totally accept about ourselves? Is that important to do too, as a practical step, Erik?
Erik
Yeah,
is definitely. Go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, getting into the practice of like a behavior. So he says that's getting into the practice of focusing on the positive rather than on the negative.
Good.
So starting to practice that behavior. And he says, which will help lift the vibration, because he says, there's truth in both. If you want to sit and focus on the negative, you can make that your reality. So why not choose the positive, because that's going to give you the most benefit. You're going to feel better. So it's practicing that.
So you have a negative thought about yourself. You can turn it into like, wait a minute, here's what I can learn from that. But you can also counter it with, at the same time, okay, here's what I'm good about. Here's what's good about me in that regard. So yeah, there's so much inner work that can be done, and it's not that hard actually. You just have to dedicate yourself to it. It just takes self-reflection.
It's commitment.
Commitment.
Just dedication and commitment. He says to me one way that he helps me practice it was he used the image or visualization of a car. And so when I would have a thought that would trail off and be a negative thought, and he says, how a car, when you start to press the gas pedal, increase in speed, and then that momentum is going, and it's harder when you slam on the brakes to stop it. And so he said, how far are you going to let your car go before you slam on the brakes? So when I would start to have a thought going, he'd have me go, hit the brakes and clamor in reverse and back it up to a point where I could turn it around. And the more I could turn it around in the day, then my car would be going in the right direction.
Saves on bodywork repairs. I'm telling you that.
Yeah, it does. Saves on the brake job.
It's totally doable, people. I think the undercurrent is to always remember that you are perfect, that you are whole and part of God, that you have complete sovereignty over your energy. No one can access it or tamper with it or harm it without your express permission. And who's going to do that? And also you have to remember that you are the energy of love. That's what you are. So just constantly keep that in the back field, okay? All right, so before we take questions, first of all, Erik, do you want to say anything else before I take questions? Before we take questions?
Well, Erik was just reminding me earlier today, a couple hours ago, I was in my head just going in a thought process that I know wasn't in my best way to go. And as I was walking down the hall in my house, I tripped and I kept the thought process going, and then I tripped again. And I said, okay, I get it. Change your thought.
Well, I trip all the time. My family, it's like one of my quirks. Very, very clumsy. I don't think I'm totally in my body, but that's okay. All right, so by the way, anybody who wants to comment, maybe Paula will read it because I'm scared to read comments, about what your thoughts are on having this Zoom cocktail hour once a month. That'd be so cool. Tea and cocktails, anything. And, I think it'd be fun. Let me know if that's something you would like to do. All right, let's go ahead and start the callers. All right, got somebody from come on. There we go. 860 area code. Hi there, how you doing?
Hi, that would be so much fun because I don't really have any friends and I don't go to bars, so cocktail sounds fun.
Oh, let's do it, girl. We'll do Jello shots together. I'm kidding. I can't do hard liquor. I tried, and it was a freaking slippery slope. A really dangerous, so I had to cut that out. So now it's a glass of red wine or two every once in a while. All right. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good. I enjoyed your conversation very much. It was very enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you. Good.
What's your first name?
Oh, my name is Lisa.
Lisa.
Where are you from, Lisa?
Connecticut.
Have you called in before?
I have called in before, yes.
I recognize your voice. Well, how can we help you, sweetie?
Well, my father-in-law passed away, and the house that he built, well, it's kind of going to the state for care, and his daughter had cashed in even the life insurance for paying medical bills, but I don't know if it's possible. I'm wondering if it will be possible. My husband wants the house because his father built it, if the price would be low enough for us to afford, and it needs a lot of work. It needs all the work our house needed 30 years ago that took us 30 years to pay for, and now we're old. So I don't know if this is going to happen or if it's good or bad. I'm kind of walking around giving things away and thinking I have to give away half the house. It won't fit.
So, Eric, what should they do?
Eric is saying, like, your husband needs to be real clear as to why he wants the house, because I feel like he wants it because he's hanging on to something, you know, maybe it's a memory or something of their father or whatever. But Eric says to like make it real clear as to why he really wants the house, because I feel like it will be a very heavy duty project that y'all will have to do. I do feel like price-wise it will be okay to purchase, but the other part, I feel a heaviness with it for some reason.
All in all, would it be financially beneficial and spiritually beneficial? Combine those, okay, and emotionally beneficial for them to buy the house, to fix it up, and then possibly sell it or keep it?
Eric says no.
Okay.
We can't just buy and sell. We're too old for that.
Okay, I gotcha.
Michelle, what do you get?
Yeah, because I was getting the same thing that, you have to really look at what experience you want to have here, because it is possible to buy the house, possible to do that, but there'll be a lot of challenges through this. And you can definitely work through it. You're definitely able to do it, but this is kind of a crossroads to decide, which direction am I going to go. If it's decided, yes, we want this house, then you can do it, but it's going to be a challenge. Financially, you'll get it, but it'll be a challenge, a few things to work through.
Well, there's good challenges and there's bad challenges. Will it be a horror show or not? Eric, if you were in their shoes, what would you do?
Eric shows me heaviness. It's a lot of heaviness.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, Lisa, you got a decision. You both have a decision to make. So, I think whatever you decide is probably going to end up okay.
I appreciate that very much, all of you.
Love you too.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Okay, got somebody from a 330 area code. Hi there. How you doing?
I'm fabulous. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am. What's your first name and where are you calling from?
My name is Abella, and I'm in Georgia.
Abella.
And yes, thank you, Elisa, for all the Atlantis Scalar work that you've been doing for me, a plethora of work, and I'm reaping the benefits day by day.
Oh, I'm
You're
so
welcome.
Happy.
Yes. So the boost of self-love is right on topic with everything discussed today, which I recently got, and I'm feeling the effects of it. But my question today to Erik is that I feel that in this particular incarnation for me, that I'm here to hold light, whatever that means, and also to learn how to be self-sufficient. So I've found myself a little bit of an introvert lately. Erik, am I on the right path, yay or nay? And with that yay or nay, what can I do to either self-correct or really hit this inclination out of the ballpark?
He says exactly what you're doing. He says you're like right on target, He says you have, he says you're right, you're perfect where you are. He says there's nothing to correct. There's nothing to get better. It's just right where you are today. It's perfect. Is what he's saying. Because what you're doing is she's constantly seeking for betterment. Mm-hmm. So that is in itself is sufficient. Michelle.
Mm-hmm. he also says, so he says that you're an empath, and he also says that you're an alchemist. And so he says alchemy is you are able to transform energy, you can create, and yes, we all do this to a degree, but you have a very specific way of doing this. So what can you turn things into? So he says, creation and freedom. So he says, you want to amp up this life? He goes, well, what do you want to create? What do you want to have fun with? What do you want to experience? Because you can take any experiences that you've had, you can take anything that's in your mind, and you can transmute it. You can change it into anything by using the power of your mind, your focus, and training your beliefs.
And sometimes people like me, I transmute other people's energy in the scalar field using my maternal love. I mean, I am Mama Bear, man. I cannot tell you how deeply maternal my feelings are for people. And I use that maternal love to transmute energy. So there's all sorts of ways to be an alchemist and transmute energy. Love, and thought, focus. There's all sorts of ways, and you have to figure out the way that you're going to use. And stop barking already. Okay, whatever.
So do you think if I do the scalar work,
Erik says
for
it is unconditional love for you.
Okay.
Wait, what, Adela? What were you going to ask about?
I was asking if I would do the scalar work for, I think it's like empath or light worker or something with the gifts, if that would help clarify and open that up more for me.
Well, when did you get your ERPE?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh,
all right. So I wouldn't do anything, man. I really wouldn't. I mean, if you want to get like a mediumship bundle or whatever, that's something you could do. But that the ERPE includes complete shielding with every possible holy barrier and shield and divine protection device. It includes so much that I would hold off. And, sometimes to clear the emotional stuff, it takes 6 weeks sometimes, even more, sometimes 3 months. So I want you to be patient and don't order anything else, really. Please.
Erik says to wait. He says you're good where you are right now. He says just wait.
Agree. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the time. All righty. God bless all of you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Bella.
Man, alchemist.
Bye.
That's so cool. So cool. And you're right. All of us have that ability to be alchemists, but to varying degrees. Everybody has their strengths and their weaknesses. All right, and my cousin has all of my weaknesses. All right, 501 area code. Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, ladies. Me and Miss Denise is going to have tea and peach cobbler while y'all have cocktails.
Oh, my God. I want peach cobbler. My favorite. Man. Oh, God, I love peach. I make a mean peach cobbler based on a 1901 recipe of my grandmother. But, okay, go ahead. What you got there?
Yum.
Who is this? Donna?
Miss Donna.
I knew it. I can tell by your accent. I love your accent because it's like mine. What you got for us, girl?
I have a question. Since I've had work done on the whole family, I asked for a divorce.
Wow.
Is Ricky Charles going to let me have a divorce? Because he's fighting it.
Well, isn't that
Can
your
you ask Erik or his side? Well, yeah, I know, but he's threatening bodily harm to himself.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Well, let me say one thing. When my mother was threatening suicide with my father, because I think he had an affair, I'm not sure. When I was like 13, 14 years old, my father just looked at her and said, well, go ahead and do it. I will miss you, but I will be okay in the long run. And she did not try to kill herself for a long time. Eventually she did try, but it wasn't successful. But, I mean, you cannot be responsible feel responsible for somebody's decisions against their own body. You can only be responsible for your reaction to it. And you maybe need to make that clear to Ricky that, hey, I hope you don't do that, but I'll be fine.
Well, Erik,
I did that to him once.
Weaponizing suicide, I think. But go ahead, Erik. What do you got to say? Denise?
Erik says he does these kind of tactics when he feels threatened, and he's been doing this his whole life. He finds what he feels will get you or anybody's attention, and he goes on that. Erik says, so know that this is a tactic of his. Erik says, what really ought to be the focus is what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Not what's contingent upon what other people are going to say or do. It's about what you want. And he says, because he says this is about you. And Erik, he feels heavy to me. The energy feels real heavy to me. So that's not going to change if you don't divorce.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this, Erik. If they get divorced, will Ricky be okay in the long run?
Erik says, yes, he'll be okay, but define okay, because he'll be okay, but it's like he'll be okay like how he is now, because, you know, even though he's okay, he's not okay to Donna, because that's why she doesn't want to be there anymore, you know? Right. So it's the definition of what's okay. Is it going to be okay to where he doesn't take his own life? Erik says, Erik isn't guaranteeing it. He's not. Erik just says he'll be okay. Right. I personally don't feel from what I'm getting, Erik, he would take his own life. He may act like he's going to. Michelle, what do you get?
Yeah, Erik's saying that, you know, will there be challenges present themselves? He says yes, but like Denise was saying, Erik said that there's tactics that he'll use, and he says think of, you know, when a child has done something and, you know, they're being caught and they might amp up the behavior to avoid getting into trouble. And, you know, this is in a different way, but he's doing it to create more of a distraction to kind of avoid what's happening because he's in denial. There's a lot of sadness in his energy, but what Erik says is a divorce, he says, persevere for what it is that you want. And he says because, you know, Ricky, this is like discipline. I don't know if he had lack of discipline when he was younger or like he got his own way when he was younger. But, you know, Erik said just keep going forward with what you need to do. Affirm what it is that you want. You will be successful in having a divorce, but there also has to be a point where you are able to separate his feelings and his own responsibility for himself and your ability to be able to carry on and give yourself what you need.
Good. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Donna. I love you.
Thanks, Donna.
Big hug.
Got somebody from the 910 area code. Hi there. How you doing?
You ready for some more country talk?
I love my country talk. Of course I do.
This is Belinda from North Carolina.
Belinda from North Carolina. My daughter and her husband and family lived in Cary. You know where that is? Cary, North Carolina?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he did a fellowship.
Away.
He did a fellowship in Duke, joint replacement growth. And it's really funny because using the e-board, Houston, my son-in-law, asked what fellowship is he going to do? And Erik just spelled that ew, like E-W. And, well, I thought, okay, that's trauma. But no, it ended up being hacking off body parts and putting new ones in. Ew. All right, Linda, what's your thought, girl?
I wanted to ask Erik the name of 2 books that would help me on my journey, my spiritual journey, that I could read.
2 books.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty
One
specific.
or 2.
Michelle, are you getting anything?
Well, I'm actually getting Louise Hay, Heal Your Life. or the one about healing. And there's also, and I don't know what the title, but considering what we were talking about today, it's about love, about seeing love in everything.
Okay. I'll get it and just start reading. Thank you. Love you, ladies.
Have you read
Love
Eric's
you,
book?
Eric.
Wait, Belinda, you read Eric's book, right?
Oh, yes. Both of them.
That book, I swear to God.
I got yours and his.
Oh, I love that book. Yep. It really helps me so much. All right, thank you,
It
Belinda.
does.
Remember, we're going to get together with Donna for a peach cobbler.
Oh, yeah. I'll bring the Cool Whip.
Oh,
good.
Yeah. All right, got somebody from the 216 area code. Hi there, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how you doing?
All right, this is Desmond calling from Cleveland, Ohio.
Hi. What you got for us, big guy?
I wanted to know what spiritual gifts do you see opening up or advancing this year for me?
Ooh.
Right when you said, Eric says that you are very intuitive, and he said, do you even know, are you even aware how intuitive you are? He says you see.
He's asking the question, so he must have some inkling.
Yeah. Are you aware how intuitive you are?
Yes.
What kind of gifts does he have, Eric?
Well, he says definitely healing. Definitely healing.
Ooh.
But are you like scared of your gifts, or nervous about them, or scared to exercise them on other people?
I think it's I think as far as the healing, it's probably more of the confidence. I think that's where it more plays from the
That's pretty typical.
But you're also good with animals, Eric is showing me. You're also real good with animals.
What kind of clairs does he have, if any, Eric, that are stronger than average?
Eric told me see. That's the word I saw right away, and I wrote down see. S-E-E, see. He sees.
Ooh. All right. Does he have the makings to the potential to be an animal communicator?
Definitely. And Eric
more
says
than that.
Eric says what
more
you can
than
do
that.
is like what Eric says what you can do is like go days off, like daydream somewhere and days, and just start paying attention to what you're seeing. Like don't look at a lamp and say, what do I see? What do I see? Just kind of go off in a daydream stage and start noticing what it is you are seeing, because Eric says you see a lot, and absolutely more than that.
Does he ask for travel?
Yeah, I know. Oh, go ahead.
Does he ask for travel at night?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, he does. But also Eric is saying that he you see through illusion. So whatever you're experiencing right now, because he's saying seeing through illusion, so seeing the truth of things. Wow. And he says, and that's going to happen more and more. He says, keep having patience and persevere with this, because you're going to get a lot of information through seeing and also through feeling. Because combined is going to help you see behind the curtain.
I'm going to ask one more question about him. But first, I want to tell people DeniseRamon.com and Michelle Gray at thehealing-r.com. But should he become a professional healer or medium or both?
If he wants to. But if he's a healer, he's a medium. And if he's a medium, he's a healer.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, thank you so much for joining us in the show, everybody. I love you all.
Thank you, Devin.
Please share this and hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for our Zoom cocktail tea hour. It's going to be fun.
Peach cobbler, too.
Yay.
Bye.